welcome to Toronto. Great to
you.
have you here, and thank you for this absolutely spectacular, brilliant film.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're
very
very
kind
welcome.
of you.
I haven't stopped talking about it and thinking about it since I saw it 2 weeks ago.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's music to my ears.
No, honestly, I just want to know what your first meetings were like with Sam when he told you his vision of what he wanted.
Well, actually, so Sam and I had worked together a couple of times before, so he just called me up one day and he was like, "Are you free?" And I was like, "Of course I'm free, you're Sam Mendes." And then he told me a little bit about how he wanted to tell a First World War story, and he had no idea that I was a massive history buff. So already I was, my excitement was at peak levels. And then he told me just this one image about his grandfather carrying a letter in no man's land. And I knew right then and there that it was going to be not your traditional war movie. So I was really excited. And then the last thing he said in that call was, "Oh, by the way, it's all going to be one shot." And then he hung up on me, which I was taken aback by. I was a bit confused about. But yeah, I was like, how the hell am I going to do that?
Right. And once you got that in your mind, where do you even begin? Like, how does that affect you as a writer?
I mean, it affects every single part of the process. I mean, the first place you begin is you Google one-shot film script, and then you find there's nothing, and then you go, okay, so I'm going to have to make this up as I go along. Like, I'm going to have to break ground here, which was, a bit daunting, because you're also working with Sam Mendes, who's incredible. You always want to bring your A game. So I was like, well, I need to know how the script looks. So I just started planning it in my head, and I was like, well, it'll start like this, and it'll unspool like a long kind of ribbon of text, and it'll be very descriptive and all that. But there's many challenges in writing a one-shot movie.
Yeah, well, what was the biggest one? Because there's just this is all outside.
Yeah.
There's just so many obstacles in your way already, right?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest challenge is well, it's meant to feel like real life. The whole point of shooting it that way, of writing it that way, of directing it that way was so that you would feel when you watched this film that you were living 115 minutes in someone else's life. Yeah. And so with that exposition, how you understand characters, how you're told about characters, is so exposed. So, the two men wake up and they've been together for months and months and months, if not years. And so you very rarely go to a friend, "Oh, how is your wife whose name is such and such, and your children?" And so it's how do you tell the story of these men but make it feel real so the audience don't feel like they're being spoon-fed. So that was the biggest one. And we constantly work to refine that so that in the first 10 minutes you actually learn a lot about them without being told a lot about them. And some of that is just fantastic acting. Yeah. Some of it's amazing camera work. Some of it's beautiful directing, and a little bit of it's a script.
Oh, don't be so humble. Come on. The script's a lot to do with the script. And I wanted to ask you, because, there's so many obstacles when you're shooting outside the whole film. You're waiting for the clouds. You're waiting for so much stuff.
Yeah.
Were you on set every day helping to tweak the script a little bit if needed be?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the thing with this movie, there's no traditional edit in the sense. Right. And the edit's called the final rewrite for a reason, because you can change anything you want in the edit. You can completely remake a movie, and we just didn't have that luxury. So basically at the end of each day you had 1, 2 or 10 minutes of the movie, and they had to be the movie that Sam saw in his head that Sam wanted to make. And so there'd be times in rehearsals in the morning where a line wouldn't work, or it wouldn't sound right in the actor's mouth, or a whole scene wouldn't work, and so you would just have to go with the flow, rewrite it, and do that whilst Roger Deakins and all that are standing over you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, if you want to get thrown into the trenches, so to speak, that's where you want to get thrown.
I won't lie. A couple of times I was like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I'm actually only 12. Like, I've been aged.
Oh, I hear you, my friend. Now, I find this so amazing because you started off as a bartender. You were working as a bartender. Then you got plucked from obscurity. You wrote for Penny Dreadful, and then on and on. And how amazing! Like, do you ever go back to the old bar and see your friends?
I do all the time, actually. So the Toucan in Soho, and I put it in a movie that I wrote. I co-wrote Edgar Wright's next movie, and we actually shot it in the Toucan, and I'm a bartender in the background. Oh. So that was very full circle. I was like, I'm suddenly doing a shift in the bar that I left work 5 years ago, and because I started, making a living as a writer. Yeah. But I loved my bar job. I would still do it now.
Why not?
I mean, I didn't pay for drink. Do you know how much that costs me now? How many scripts I have to write a year to make up for that?
I could imagine. When you're writing, for back to 1917 for a second, the two leads, George and Dean, are just so brilliant in this film. I mean,
so despicably talented young men. I mean, shockingly talented, and also so lovely. Yeah. they just have it all going on. And I actually, obviously, I'm incredibly biased because I think of them, we spent so long together, I think of them as my little brothers and I will like die to defend them. But I think they're the finest actors of their generation. They're really, I mean, George MacKay didn't even fluff a line once in this film.
Which is so unreal to me because when you see what he goes through in this movie, people, I don't want to give anything away, but there's so many scenes.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you about because I'm going to ask him about the scene where he is running across that field and he has soldiers and things coming at him that way.
Yeah. That was my favorite day on set. I remember writing that scene. I wrote that scene in a hotel room in Lille. Like I was still out doing research and I was so kind of like pleased with it, and Sam and I constantly refined it and it became this kind of like powerhouse scene in the film, and I was always like, oh, will this live up to real life? Like in real life, could they capture it? And they just blew my scene out the water. Like it's so good. And him hitting the extra wasn't in the script. It wasn't planned. Wow. It was just like a moment of pure magic. And well, not for the extra or him, like it was a moment of pain, but the kind of what it did to the film. I mean, we were all sitting watching it around monitors about a quarter of a mile back from that line, and the entire film set screamed. Like it was like, no! Like just absolutely lost our minds. Yeah. And then he got back up, and I remember, I mean, obviously I'm a big nerd, so like I'm obviously gonna be excited, but I remember like the video guy JB, who's like, you know, he's been in film since his whole life, was like, go on George. It was like watching like the last 5 minutes of like the Stanley Cup final. We were just like, oh my God. Brilliant. Like absolutely losing our minds. And yeah, I mean, what George did in that, when he got up, he was like the Terminator chasing that car down. And that is a true testament to him. He didn't break character once. Amazing. Every moment that he was on camera and it was rolling, he was Schofield.
Amazing. Well, like I said, congratulations on this. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, so I am chomping at the bit for this next film.
Good, I'm pleased.
Cannot wait. So it's all shot? It's done?
It's all shot. It's in the edit right now. Oh, good. I'm really very pleased with it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I will be too, because just love that. It's been too long, Edgar.
Has,
so,
isn't it? I feel the same way. I'm like, show me more.
I can't
I'm a big fan as well.